Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like Busch Stadium, is at an all-time low. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Dan Samorka. If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, I'm back. I've gone. Yay.
Finally.
Wow.
I'm
cool.
really jazzed.
Yeah.
To have you back.
I can tell.
On the show.
I've been to the other side of the world, and I'm back.
And you came back.
I came back.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I just have such commitment to this podcast, you see.
All right. That's cool.
Yeah. First, I want to shout out C70 for coming on and making the show 50% good. I enjoyed the episode. I laughed out loud, like literally when you said that the game at the end, when you said, well, I'm going to pick the one I think is the ugliest and see if that's the best. And it was right. That made me laugh.
So mad about that.
And also I like that you called the episode Radical Positivity. And I think I heard you go more in a single episode than I've ever heard before.
I wrote out the outline and everything like that. And I had these like positive points and I think we got to a couple of them, but it was, I honestly, I blame Daniel. He was a downer. He was a bummer. As I said right before we started recording, I think I said this on the show. We watched the Cardinals flail with the bases loaded against maybe we shouldn't do that next time we record. I may have put a little damper on the episode, but
well, it's a real risk reward sort of situation because if that had gone really well, then maybe you ride it into the episode, and you're feeling that wave.
But it didn't.
Yeah.
So we didn't.
Yeah. Well,
and
thanks.
Also, Shoptaw. He's just man. That guy is. I worry about him.
Yeah, same. Well, Ben, don't look right behind you right now. No.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's been a rough time for Cardinal fans. So even when you guys said, this is going to be a positive episode, I was like, we'll see how that goes. But there was some good stuff in there. But even between then and now, here we are.
I'll say the outline today looks a lot more bleak than it did last week. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
But I want to talk a little bit about my trip. So I just went to Bali. I went to Indonesia. So first of all, it's cool that it is 13 hours in the future. So I couldn't wait for you guys to find out about the Jordan Walker news, the Luke and Baker news. That's how it works.
So are you just 13 hours older than you were now? You look
I've
bad.
aged. I've aged massively.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the whole confusing thing because it's also an incredibly long flight and I left it took me 46 hours basically to get there and get back. And
Nate, that's almost 2 days.
Yeah. Well, and so going there where time is jumping forward, I left Wednesday afternoon and got there Friday afternoon. So that was super confusing. But then coming back, my flight was a 16-hour flight, but on the clock it only was 4 hours because of the time zone stuff. So super strange feeling. And these last, I got back on Sunday, and frankly, I've kind of felt like shit for 3 days now. And you might be able to hear it in my voice too, because I just tested. I do not have COVID, but I thought maybe I did. It wouldn't have surprised me. I sat next to a woman on my last flight that was just like hacking. I'm like,
Ugh.
oh God, what have I done? But so far I'm clear as far as that goes, but I definitely have something. So I've been kind of feeling like shit. And then obviously I have to talk to you. So, that's not going to help the whole situation.
I'd like to point out, you, as soon as the camera turned on, you looked bad. Like I could not have affected you that quickly. It was immediate.
It's rapidly declining, and there's not a lot of decline left in me, but yeah, I mean the travel was wild, including I had a 9-hour layover overnight in LAX. Where
you just stayed in the airport?
I just stayed in the airport. Because I got there at 10 p.m. and then my flight was at 6 a.m. So I guess it was an 8-hour layover.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to stay awake for the whole thing because of trying to like readjust myself to the clock. And some airports have like little pods and stuff you can rent, but LAX does not. So I was just like a ghost just wandering the halls of LAX. There was like no one there. It was really bizarre. One of the biggest airports in the world. I'm just sort of wandering around. It's completely empty, which was really strange. Spent a lot of time with the trusty old Steam Deck. Played a lot of video games.
That actually doesn't sound that bad.
No, honestly, like it's a lot. The travel is a lot, but I really don't mind it, especially because I just bring my Steam Deck and just play video games or read books the whole time. But it is a lot of like stationary, just sort of locked up. But you're probably more interested in Indonesia than the
No. Walk me through your trials and tribulations inside of LAX.
I think probably the most interesting thing that I did in Bali, at least for the sake of this podcast, is that I tried surfing. I tried to go surfing, which is something I have never done before.
Noted athlete.
Yeah, noted athlete. I think like the closest I've ever done to surfing is when I was like 13 going to Florida and doing like the boogie board thing, where you're like catching a wave and riding it.
I would say that that's pretty close to surfing. I mean, what's closer to surfing than boogie board? Like,
that's fair, but there's a fundamental difference. There's a key step in the whole thing that is
you're not boogieing on a surfboard.
That's like, I think the similar Ben would be like, oh, you've gone sledding, you know how to go snowboarding.
Well, no, I'm just saying, as far as like, there's no closer.
That's true.
Activity.
Yeah. It's pretty. It's like way closer to surfing than bowling is.
Exactly my point.
Yeah. So that's fair. I've done the closest thing you can possibly do to surfing, but it still did not prepare me for it. And so, but Bali, like, it is known. I didn't know this, but I was told this. It was part of why I wanted to do that. Is that it's like one of the surf capitals of the world. It's just there's something. It's surrounded by coral reef, so you get these huge, but like consistent waves. I don't know any of the language of any of it, but there's big waves. They're consistent.
Did you say cowabunga?
Of course I said cowabunga. What the fuck?
Did you get totally tubular?
Dude, I was hanging 10 left and right.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
No, and actually it was quite the opposite. Surfing is really, really, really hard. The first day I went, so I was there with some friends from work, one of which is a guy from South Africa that has surfed since he was like 9. So he's like a total pro, does like surfing, like he does entire trips centered around surfing.
That's
so
awesome.
So I got some like pointers from him, rented a surfboard. Indonesia is a part of the world where like the prices are way, way different and compared to Western standards, far, far lower. So for like $2, I rented a surfboard for seemingly just forever. There was no paperwork. There was no conversation. It was just give them the money and they give me a surfboard and I'm just expected to bring it back, which of course I did. I'm a good little boy. But I went out and just got absolutely wrecked by trying to surf. Like I got some in the moment lessons from my friends and dude, like I think I lowered the sea level by 1/2 inch with the amount of salt water I drank. It was remarkable how much I was getting destroyed. You'd think.
I mean, it doesn't look easy. Were you coming in with expectations like, I'm going to crush this?
No. But
Okay.
you know me. I come in with some degree of expectation that, like, I'm just going to keep trying and I'm going to keep going until I get something close to it.
Sure.
I thought that I could just keep trying. What I did not anticipate is, and this is stupid, I know, but I'm telling you my story. It's exhausting just trying to get in the situation to try to surf.
Duh.
Like, I thought I could manage that a little bit better, but the waves were so big that I was like cooked just swimming on the surfboard out to where the surf break was.
I mean, how often do you swim? Never?
You would think once or twice a year would be enough to prepare you to surf.
That's a good point.
So I almost lost my shorts. I was like swallowing. You'd think I couldn't keep my mouth closed. I'm like, what the fuck? How am I? I'm getting wrecked so hard that I'm just flailing mouth.
You're working hard, so you're breathing hard. So maybe your mouth is gasping for air, and then it's all of a sudden filled with seawater.
Yeah, because I get smoked by a wave and go flail and like getting crushed into a wave, and then the surfboard is strapped to your foot, and it obviously gets pulled by waves very heavily.
Yeah,
and so I get pulled through the water by my surfboard.
Yeah,
it was a real mess. I was really bad at it. So I sat on the beach for a little while and just observed, watched some technique, because I couldn't even get out to the break. I was just getting crushed.
Damn.
Surfboards, they're huge too. This is like a 7.5 foot surfboard.
Yeah.
So like if you don't navigate the break to just get out to the water, you just get flipped upside down, backwards, and all sorts of stuff just trying to get out there.
Sure.
So I observed for a while, and I did figure out how to I managed to get to where I was supposed to be. But then you have to read the wave. You have to do all this stuff where it breaks just right and whatnot. And man, I wasn't even close. So the next day I went back. There was another guy with me who'd never done it before. And we got surf lessons. We hired this guy who was a foot shorter than me and absolutely jacked.
Hell yeah.
One of the most ripped people I've seen, but also tiny, like a tiny little jacked dude who had dreads. I told him I was from the U.S. and he was like, Obama.
That was the touchstone? That's funny.
Yeah. And sidebar, in Indonesia, apparently steroids are completely legal. And so all the gyms there's just in the corner of a gym is just a juice area, and people just, so it's a destination spot for
jacked people.
Yeah. And so I saw some of the most uncomfortably jacked people I've ever seen in my entire life on this beach. The type where they're it's impacted their ability to move like a human. You know what I mean? They're walking up and down the beach, just hey ladies,
Their
but
heart
it's
just beating like crazy, trying to keep them alive.
Yeah, they're actually 22, but they look like they're 47 years old,
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely insane. So anyway, we got some guides, and this guy was incredible. He could not only swim with himself on his surfboard, he could swim and push me on the surfboard.
Wow.
And and what they do is they help you get out to the area, and then you spin around, and then they hold onto your surfboard, and they help you basically wait until the wave is breaking at the exact right time, and then they tell you to go.
Yeah.
And so they take care of a lot of the there's a lot of art in surfing of reading the wave and all that stuff, so you know when to go, when to all that.
Just like skiing, man, you got to let the mountain guide you, man.
Yeah. The thing with skiing is that you're also you're just trying not to fall, right? At least for me. And gravity's doing a lot of the work. With this, it's you have to do every little part of it.
Yeah.
Every little part of it is a whole ass thing that you have to do exactly right, or you're going to get crushed. But these guys go out there and they basically hold you in place. And then when the wave breaks just right, they give you like a little push and they tell you to go, and they've given you all the like technique and everything. Immensely helpful. And so long story now, but with this guy's help, I managed to stand up and like kind of surf a couple of times.
Damn.
And it was like awkward and uncomfortable. And there's these dudes who like, they're unaffiliated with the like surf shops. They just take pictures from the beach and then walk up to you and try to sell you pictures. So I got like some really awkward pictures because my swimsuit is pulled all the way up and my shorts are falling down and it's like a whole mess, but I'm surfing.
Hey,
I did
how'd
it.
it feel?
It's fun. I mean, just like you would expect, you know, it's like, it's a lot of fun. It feels great. You know, I'm hanging 10, I'm throwing up, hang tens and then
such a cool surfer, dude.
Yeah. And then this girl ran it. I think she ran into me, but I'm not sure. But I ran into someone.
I'm going to say you definitely ran into her.
Well, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure she ran into me, but it doesn't really matter.
You probably knew exactly what you were doing, and she had no idea.
We were both students of the same group,
All
you
right,
know,
yeah.
so then our little leggy things got tied up and it was a whole thing, and she didn't speak English, so it was great. So yeah, it was me learning to surf. I don't think I could do it at all again without having that sort of like guide. You know,
Yeah.
I think I would need to do it exactly that way like 10 more times before I would feel comfortable trying it by myself again. And I was sore for like 3 days after because the paddling it's hard. The guy kept going when a wave was coming, he'd go, paddle like a man, paddle like a man. And I'm like, I am paddling like a man.
Actually, everything I do is like a man, as you can see.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for the listener, Nate does have a puka shell necklace on. He's not wearing a shirt.
I'm all in, baby.
Yeah, it's a cool vibe. I was talking about how terrible you look, but from the neck down,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Thanks, dog.
Salt
Thanks,
life,
dog.
right?
Yeah, salt life. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Food was obviously fantastic. I'm a huge fan of that part of the world's cuisine. So actually being there and just eating it all day, every day was incredible as well. So that was my trip to Indonesia.
Yeah,
I think we probably spent too much time on this episode already talking about it.
No, I want to hear more about the mechanics of you learning to surf. Really dive in. What about the leg drive? Is there a leg drive?
Not really. So
Wow.
part of the problem that I was encountering is that it's almost exclusively upper body.
Wow.
And
you kind of have like a concave chest, so that's not a great.
Well, so the first step of getting up on the board is basically a push-up, which is fine. An individual push-up is no big deal. But that comes after paddling against heavy surf for quite a while.
Sure.
And I was just like, my body was breaking down. It was like a 2-hour lesson, I think at like an hour and a half. I was like, dude, I'm going to drown. Like, I'm going to drown out here. I gotta be done.
Well, I'm glad you didn't drown, Nate. I'm
yeah.
glad you sort of surfed. It sounds awesome.
Yeah. I super recommend it. Like, I think you would have I think everyone would need a lesson going into it, but I think you would have a blast.
I don't even know which way to point the surfboard. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Straight up and down vertical.
Oh, okay.
No, cool. The guy. So this is my one last little anecdote, and then we can talk about the Cardinals. So there's two techniques you do when you're paddling out and a wave is coming at you. The basic one is that basically you plant your hands and you lift your chest like a cobra, like the yoga pose of the cobra yoga pose, you know, where you like arc your back up.
Sure.
And basically you ride the wave over top of it. If the wave is big enough, what you're supposed to do is you grab the surfboard, like almost like bear hug it, and flip 180 upside down. The wave crashes over you, then you flip back over. And the guy was like, so all you do is, and he doesn't speak like great English. He's like, grab it, flip upside down and flip it. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to do that. I'm going to get crushed. And sure enough, I was like, I didn't even really try it. Like, what do you mean?
That
grab
seems complicated.
Yeah.
He's like, no, does not seem like lesson 1 type material.
Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah.
So, okay. But anyway, while I was gone, it was a little challenging to watch baseball, but it was kind of fun though too, because like I'd get up and the Cardinal game would be at like 6:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Which kind of was fun. It did fit my schedule a little bit, so I got to like follow it a little bit more than I was anticipating, but I wasn't able to watch a ton of baseball. But I think that might have been an okay thing, because I kind of missed out on, even though the Cardinals have been winning some games, kind of missed the last hurrah of us considering ourselves a playoff team in 2024. How are you feeling about the Cardinals right now?
I'm shipping it, baby. I'm done. I was trying to be positive. There is about a month left of games remaining, and I think that you can twist your mind into a Brewers collapse and a wild card race collapse and all that stuff. But I think we'll talk about the various reasons why. I think I'm finally realizing that it just wasn't going to happen. You look at the run differential. You look at who the Cardinals are playing for the remainder of the season. You look at what the Brewers have been doing, the way the Padres have been playing, the way that the Diamondbacks have been playing. There just doesn't seem to be a path. And the team is dumb. Like, I don't think they've done...
Hard-hitting analysis right there.
I don't think we were talking about it. C70 and I were talking about it last week. What's the plan?
Yeah.
And I think like I almost feel like they don't even deserve it. Like they have not earned a playoff appearance. They are not behaving as a playoff bound team. They make the moves I wouldn't make, or they make the moves I would make too late, or it's just it's a sad affair. Yeah, I don't know.
You guys talked about it last week, so I don't want to like rehash it, but I was like dying laughing at Jordan Walker being demoted.
Yeah.
So he could get regular at bats.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck? That was the opposite of why he was called up.
Yes.
As it's supposed to be a political. Anyway, you guys talk. Yeah, it's just another perfect example of.
And we've talked about it in several episodes, but yeah, it's like we detailed that Luken Baker was being more successful against left-handed pitching. They decided to bring up Jordan Walker instead. He was only going to get at-bats against left-handed pitching. Almost no left-handed pitching came down the line, so he was just sitting the entire time, which the Cardinals full well knew because they know what their schedule looks like. Then they demoted him and then finally brought up Luken Baker, who is, by the way, only gotten like 9 at-bats since he's been called up.
One of which, though, was a jack.
Yes. What do you know?
What do you know?
He adds some thump. It's just bad and dumb.
Well, I think this is going to be the core of the conversation, but let's frame it around some of the news that's happening so we can at least sort of move forward. So the Cardinals have announced that they've recalled Riley O'Brien, Rob, which is cool. But in a corresponding move, Shawn Armstrong, the return for the Dylan Carlson trade. Dylan Carlson crushing it. Small amount of at-bats, but still crushing it for the Tampa Bay Rays right now.
Yes.
Shawn Armstrong has been designated for assignment. He pitched 12 and 2/3 innings over 11 outings. He actually did pretty well.
He looked great.
Yeah. 24.5% strikeout percentage, only a 4% walk, a sub-3 ERA, incredibly low sample size, but looked pretty good.
Sub-3 FIP?
Yeah. I'm assuming that this is also like, this is a, let's see what we have for the future thing. We know Shawn Armstrong isn't going to be with the Cardinals next year. Doesn't really matter that he's pitching well. In fact, we're now in the mode that the Cardinals winning games is actually not what we want.
Right.
I saw a thing on something somewhere. Good analysis.
Wow.
That the Cardinals now have like a higher percentage odds of getting the first overall pick than they have of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which is cool and fun, and we love that. But anyway, like I think there's just like, well, fuck it, like we're cutting Shawn Armstrong. They were gonna DFA Carlson if they couldn't find a trade partner for him anyway. So I think they're, it's
Well,
like we don't.
no, they probably wouldn't have because Michael Ciani went down. So they probably would have kept
true.
him and put him in center, or they would have needed that extra bat because I don't think ideally you'd call up Victor Scott, he's hitting better than he did in his first go around, but he's not. He does not seem major league ready. This could be his Mason Wynn cup of coffee at the end of last year, so that he launches into having a solid 25. But yeah, I mean, I think that there is no way to argue that the Dylan Carlson trade was good. It's first off, the tale's already over. We already know because they now get 3 years of a player who has a pretty high pedigree. Shawn Armstrong's gone. I guess somebody could trade something for him that works out for the Cardinals. But it is, I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. Like this is chaos. What is happening right now?
Is it chaos or just not the apocalypse, but more just like the sad, it's like the post-war, everything is just sad and falling apart rather than like chaos. You know what I mean?
I think the only way I could describe
dystopian.
Dystopian. The only way I could describe is I think the Cardinals' last 2 weeks have been chaotic with the Jordan Walker, the Lucan Baker, the Dylan Carlson, Shawn Armstrong, with all the movement that has happened. Not to mention Wilson Contreras. Now, not all of that's in their control, and not all of that's necessarily bad. Jose Fermin is up. It is a chaotic look from a team that had really high expectations for themselves coming into this year.
Yeah. Yeah, though I would argue that it is, I agree with you, but none of this feels particularly new either, right? This has been sort of the story of really the last 2 years of saying one thing, doing the other, seemingly bad player management, bad communication, etc.
I like John Mozeliak. I think John Mozeliak has done a good job overall, but for the past 3 years, it just seems like the game has passed him by, or he's like, I don't think he's gotten dumber. Something seems to have changed.
Well,
the team is ran differently, and it could be the Yadier Molina factor. It has to be more than that, though, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when, like, Nolan Arenado, not to put too much on one guy, right? But like, this team feels fundamentally different if we have a 7-WAR, 8-WAR player in the middle of it right now.
Sure.
Right. And Paul Goldschmidt is aging, and that's sort of, he's at the sort of standard aging curve or whatever. But like, I do think there's some stuff where it's like this team was set up pretty well, but a lot of the players have just not done what they were expected to do. And is that on just the players? Is it on Marmol? Is it on the whole system? I don't know. Like, we'll all fall apart trying to figure out the root cause of it. But I think like coming into this year, and just like last year, the Cardinals were projected to win the division, and there's a bunch of outcomes where that's exactly what happens. And 2 years in a row, we've gotten basically like the low percentile outcome.
I mean that is true, and there is part of me that I am empathetic to that fact, and also I do think we just need to hit again that like the Cardinals. Their performance, their Pythagorean, what their runs scored and runs allowed shows is that they are 12 games under 500.
Yeah, they're basically the same team. You said this last week, but they're basically the same team as last year.
They're basically the same team as last year. And I agree that you wouldn't predict what would happen to the offense this year. But I do think when the likes of Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Gorman, Nolan Arenado, Lars Nootbaar, Ivan Herrera, basically
Jordan
the
Walker.
entire starting team, other than Alec and Mason Wynn, has underperformed. They are hitting below league average. Like when all the students in the class fail the test, you blame the teacher. You don't blame the students.
Yeah.
So there's something going wrong. Whether it's just the way that the team is organized this year, whether it's preparedness, whether it's coming from the top, whether it's Ali Marmol, whether it's hitting. I mean, it is. Teams have bad years. Look at the White Sox. Everything is going wrong. By the way, shout out. They have 100 losses. They are just absolutely
eliminated in August. Great
killing
luck.
it over there.
And you guys, this fact has to like. I just have to. You have to add this in when you talk about how bad that they're going. They also are not allowed to have a top 10 pick next year because of how the draft lottery system works now to prevent tanking. I don't know exactly the rules, but they're not only having the worst season of all time, but they're not even going to get a good draft pick out of it. So it's just bad. There's no redeeming quality to it for them as an organization. So
and their farm is bad. Everything about the White Sox is bad.
Yeah.
And I only invoke them to say like things can go extra worse, even if you like things can compile, things can get really bad. But the Cardinals this year, this is how it has looked all year, and they never made an adjustment. They obviously they added at the fringes. I like the Fetty deal. I like bringing in Tommy Pham. I think Fetty will be an asset next year.
Yeah, he had a pretty good start the other day.
Never did anything to change it.
6 innings. Fetty had a pretty good start there. 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, like 2 hits or something like that. Yeah.
But like you look at it, Gorman and Goldie basically performing at the same level, and Goldie is going to get like 650 at bats this year.
Yeah.
He's basically started every single game up until very recently, where Burleson has been taking over first a little bit more, which I think is great. But yeah, I mean, the team they're just not there. And it's all the offense's fault. The pitching has been far better than I would have expected it to be this year. Because honestly, even just looking at them now, I hate our rotation. I hate watching it every night. It is bad baseball. But they are not the problem. The problem is the offense.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about Nolan Gorman. So he was optioned to AAA, which makes sense. He's been flailing for quite a while now. It's a tricky one with him because he's been this sort of hot and cold guy, and that's just how some players are. There are very successful Major League Baseball players that are hot and cold, and you just by the end of the season, the hot outweighs the cold, and you look back and you say that was a pretty good season. These sort of high K rate guys, like that's what you get with them. Because we've seen Gorman. I mean, he's at 20 home runs, like 14 of them came in like a 6-week period, right? There was a little while there where he was one of the best hitters in baseball. But that hot streak just never came back, and he's just been cold. And you can't say he didn't get the time. You can't say he didn't get the at-bats. I do think it's a little funny to send him down now that like the season's basically over. But it does
he's
seem
going to
like
be up like any minute because rosters are going to expand, and why wouldn't he come back up?
Yeah, well, that's always my question. Is like, what is he going to get at the minor league level that he can't just keep working on at the major league level, except for some sort of like headspace reset sort of thing, right?
Yeah. So Gorman, he had a really slow start to the year, had a bad April, March, then it was hot as hell in May, 720 OPS, and then June was an absolute nightmare. He played in 28 games in June, had 42 strikeouts in 28 games, and put up a 532 OPS. Bounced back a little bit, and then August was just even worse than his June was. I don't know what to say. But I think he'll probably come back and have a fine year next year. obviously there's an adjustment to make. I haven't like lost faith in Nolan Gorman. I can't speak, but my problem is like the amount of at bats that the Cardinals have given to players who it just wasn't happening, and I think that's why we are where we are. And I agree with what you're saying. Maybe I didn't think it was necessarily bad process, but when you can sit here at the end of August with 2020 hindsight, you can say like, well, here's your problem. Like the problem is Nolan Gorman and Paul Goldschmidt never hit this year.
Yeah.
And among with some others, but those are the two biggest like.
Well, but even then, the problem with Paul Goldschmidt is we both have been saying all year his underlying numbers, they all look the same. They all look just like, what's the problem? It's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. And then it doesn't. Right.
Yeah.
It's the problem is the whole team has basically been that way. Right. There hasn't been anyone who's just been doing it all year except for Mason Wynn. But even that, the offensive profile, we're super ecstatic about it because what it means is that because of his elite defense, he's going to be a super valuable player with like slightly above league average offense, but he's not like tearing the cover. He's not the center of an offensive team,
right.
Well,
I kind of just looked at this up on my free time because I am so in the weeds on what the hell is going on with Paul Goldschmidt. And I did find something that kind of, I think helps explain why he is where he is right now. And I'll go over just like some swing percentage, plate discipline, oh my God, plate discipline numbers.
Date discipline.
Yeah, man, my brain is shutting down, as is the Cardinals offense. Okay. So Paul Goldschmidt, I want to talk about his out of zone swing percentage, his in zone swing percentage, and his just general swing percentage. So this is just how often he is swinging the bat generally. His career out of zone swing percentage is about 24%. This year it's 28. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 4% of the times he's swinging at something that he can't even pretend to do something with because it's way out of the zone. And a 4% over 500, 600 at-bats is significant. His in-zone swing is also up by about 4%. And then his total swing percentage is the highest it's ever been in his career. Back in his heyday, when Paul Goldschmidt won the MVP, when he was with the Diamondbacks, he was swinging, in general, about 40% of the time. This year, he's swinging almost 48% of the time. He's just swinging at everything. And I think this is really like why the metrics look good is because when he makes contact, the ball still goes far and he crushes it. But outside of that, he's just swinging too much at shit that he obviously isn't seeing well or can't handle or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So Paul Goldschmidt needs to stop swinging.
Well, Ben, look behind you right now. I mean,
he can swing at me all he wants to. Take it out on me, man.
And then we can get into the sort of psychoanalysis sort of thing. Is he swinging more because he can't see the ball as well anymore because he's getting older and then it's a natural aging curve? Or is it that he feels the pressure of the team on his shoulders? He's supposed to be the guy. He was very recently the guy, and they've been bad all year. We'll never know, right? But yeah, I mean, he has a long swing, and he definitely doesn't have the type of profile that you go up there and you hack at everything. He's always been a more measured plate approach kind of guy. I actually wouldn't have even guessed that he had a 40% swing percentage. I would have thought it was lower than that. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, you look at it, his hard hit is still good. His barrel percentage is still good. The exit velocity is still good. But everything else is really not looking good. And I really I'm not saying that this is a magic pill, but if he just left the bat on his shoulder, 10% more, 7% more, whatever, we might have there is a way to see it. But like you said, if his vision is reducing, I don't know. Can he get LASIK and fix that? Can he? I don't know if there's a solution there, but
apparently Tommy Pham can't see anything and he still hits the ball pretty well. So I don't know.
Yeah. Get some of that.
Yeah. Well, the the bleakness of the season is definitely starting to settle in. I mentioned it at the joke at the top, but the Cardinals attendance in that loss against the Padres, on paper, they reported 27,244. That's ticket sales, though. I saw also numerous sources, I think Derek Gould might have sent this out as well, as people were saying the actual in-stadium results was somewhere around 13,000, which is way more what it looked like.
Much more than that on TV.
Yeah. And the Cardinals are likely going to miss the 3 million mark for the first time. I forget since the last time, but in quite a while.
Yeah, they're sitting at 2.372 right now. So that means that, they'd have to draw a little over 500,000 in the final month of the year. And I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think it's going to happen. And good, Yeah. I mean, we try to keep this conversation balanced because the Cardinals, in the broader lens of MLB, they're not the worst. There's far worse teams. There's far worse ownership. And it's not like they don't spend money, but still, this is one of the few ways we have to put pressure on the organization to make changes. And hopefully, I think they have assumed and had been kind of justified in the assumption that as long as the team was generally competitive in the season, the stadium would continue to sell out. It pretty much did through most of last year, despite everything. But obviously that patience has worn thin. And we know that the DeWitts, their most important thing is the bottom line. And if the team's not making money, my hope, we've seen some teams, they say, okay, well, fuck it, we're not going to put any more money into this ball club, and it becomes a sort of death spiral. I'm hopeful that the DeWitts will see it the other way around and carry the tradition that the Cardinals have had, that they themselves have, reiterated over the past decades, and recognize that some fundamental changes need to happen. Otherwise, the stadium is going to continue to be empty like this.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously always wish the Cardinals would spend a little more money and just focus on the major league product a little bit more and, do a lot of things different, honestly. But I do think this year, it's really where the money's allocated. If you talk about, in between Miles Mikolas, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, that's about $70 million of payroll, which is some teams are spending $70 million on payroll. And you're getting about 3 WAR of production, and almost all of that is from Nolan Arenado, depending on which WAR you're looking at.
Right.
$70 million for 3 WAR for any team in baseball, except the Yankees and the Dodgers, that is crippling. You just can't operate that way. So I think both can be true, I guess.
Yeah, and that's where I do try to find that balance. It's very easy for us to say Cardinals should spend more money. They should. There's been obvious free agents that would have, we talk about over the years that would have been, the contracts seem fair, and the Cardinals can obviously afford it and whatnot. But it's really not a dollar to dollar problem here. It's how they use it. It certainly seems like some changes are coming. Just today, they're saying that Mozeliak is going to finish out his contract because now they obviously need to start saying things like that. Yeah. You're never in a good spot when the organization has to make a public statement about whether you will or will not be finishing your contract. But I do think that finishing your contract is one thing, and being in that same position and having that same sort of authority is another thing. So I'm anticipating this offseason where I think you guys talked about it a little bit last week. I don't anticipate at all a march to the gallows, beheading, we're firing half the team. I kind of think Marmol might be gone. But
I mean, if a new GM Pobo comes in, Marmol is gone.
Yeah. I kind of think maybe regardless, Heim is kind of that in-between thing. Would you call him a new Pobo? He's been now spent a full season with obviously you'd call him new, but it's not the same as bringing in a totally new guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's going to be a filtering out of a lot of the high-level execs and probably Marmol, but I don't think it's going to be like a White Sox style where they fire all 4 people at the same time, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, what would it change if it was like there is no reason not to do it. I understand it looks unstable, and I'm sure the Cardinals don't want to ask more questions about all the turnover and everything like that, because they've been kind of hit with that over the past. I mean, since Matheny, it just feels like it just they have felt a little rudderless, and some legacy players have buoyed the franchise longer than it probably should have.
Well, here's where we can be. I've been thinking about this, like, what does the rest of the season look like, and how can we think about this from a positive standpoint? Which is hard. This is 2 years in a row now,
I had a nightmare. Well, I'll let you finish talking, but I had a nightmare about Chaim Bloom also that I'll share when you're done with your point.
Well, he has a checkered history of success, so there's a couple guys that are, well, Quinn Matthews, J.J. Weatherholt, Tink Hence.
Yeah.
All, I think, have a real shot at coming up this year or making the team next year. And those two guys, specifically Quinn Matthews, which I don't think we've talked about him on the show as much over the last couple months. A lot of the questions of, is he actually good, or is this just a dude raking or, crushing in the low minors? Everything that we could ever hope seems to be coming true with Quinn Matthews. He's only getting better right now. He is crushing in Double-A. So you've got him, and you've got Tink Hence, and J.J. Weatherholt seems pretty good too. And then you've got Mason Wynn, you've got Alec Burleson. I'm hopeful what you're talking about with Victor Scott. Like, it can kind of see the makings of what the new core could look like. And Hintz and Quinn Matthews, I think, could be very successful at the major league level as early as this month, September.
Yeah.
If not next year. And I guess that's where I'm starting to look now. The Quinn Matthews thing has come so far out of nowhere. And now, I mean, he's flying up. Like, there are some places starting to call him one of the best pitching prospect in baseball. That's a fundamental change to how we view the future of the starting pitching for the Cardinals. So I'm getting a little amped about that. I hate to get deep into prospects right now when we're still in August of 2024, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just reading the writing on the wall. I wanted, before we move on at all, actually, let's just hit this. I think, we kind of been tracking these numbers all season, and I'm sure that people are going to say, Ben, this is gratuitous. Why? We're already down. Why do this to us? Why? Why, Ben?
I don't even know what you're going to do, and I'm already questioning it.
Cardinals playoff odds.
Damn it. Why? Why, Ben? Why?
I do think it's important to illustrate where the Cardinals have found themselves with 1 month to play. And I think while they're not mathematically out of it, we should just count them out of it. And I do think getting looks at the guys that you're referencing would be a really great way to spend this final month. So the Cardinals percentage chance to win the division at this point is 0.3. To win the wild card, you're going to like this. It's double. 0.6.
Hey.
To make the playoffs at all is 0.9, so just under 1% to make
just
the playoffs.
Add those two together.
There's a chance.
Never tell me the odds.
And
because they're terrible.
Their percentage to win the World Series, according to Fangraphs, is 0%.
Zero? Come on. You got to give at least a 0.1 or so. It's got to be 0.0 something, and they've rounded.
They are rounding down.
Give us the roundup. Come on.
It hurts. Yeah.
It hurts. Yeah.
But I do think it's just important to say that out loud, to accept it, to understand where we are. And let's see what Tink Hence has. Let's see what Michael McGreevy has. Gordon Graceffa looked pretty good in his one start. Let's let these guys rip it. And I don't. Maybe it makes sense to let Matz go out and start to see If that's a thing, I don't know. Like, who cares? Is I guess what I'm getting at is these innings are useful, assuming the Cardinals can use them well, and it should be interesting from a fan prospect hound point of view. We should have some fun with this.
Have you looked at what Matthew Liberatore has been doing?
Yeah, I'm watching the team. But yeah, I mean, he's looked great.
Yeah, it's like over his last 15 innings, he struck out, I think, 19 and given up 1 earned run.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to try him in the rotation again.
Why not? Why wouldn't you? That's kind of where I'm viewing the team at. We did miss one little piece of news that I think is worth chatting about. To continue the bleakness, but Wilson Contreras has suffered a fracture to his right middle finger. I expect he'll be out for the remainder of the year. He might come back for the final week to get some ABs just, to do it. But I think we're done there. And then, of course, that means that Ivan Herrera is back with the club, and he was having some really nice success down in AAA. So, Pages and Herrera for the remainder of the year is what my guess is. And I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah. I've wondered, you guys kind of talked about it a little bit last week. But if the Cardinals, if there is a full new Pobo situation and they decide to do a mini rebuild, mini retool sort of thing, trading Wilson Contreras starts to make a lot of sense.
So I think it does make a lot of sense, and I also think that he's hit so well recently that moving that contract is not going to be a big deal. And I'll just leave it there. I think another thing that makes sense is if you don't want to keep Paul Goldschmidt and you want to run Ivan Herrera and Pedro Pages or some other catcher I'm not thinking of right now,
Crooks,
could Wilson Contreras take over at first base?
Yeah.
Obviously, his bat would play just fine there. He might stay a little healthier, even though I know this injury was during an at-bat. But he wouldn't be taking bats to the back of the head or foul tips or all that kind of stuff and squatting. Could you get a little more? Is there a little more juice to squeeze from Wilson Contreras at first base? I imagine he could transition fairly easily.
Yeah.
And I know that blocks. I know a lot of people like Alec Burleson coming into play first. But I think Alec Burleson could be a DH full-time. I think that the other outfielders can start in the outfield most of the time and have Burley just DH and maybe have him and Wilson trade off DHing and first base play. But why not?
Yeah. I mean, I think like big picture, I am more of a fan of that. I just really like Wilson Contreras and having him on the team. And when
he's
he hits,
fun to watch.
And he's been the best hitter on the team the last 2 years. He just has it's been some really, really bad luck as far as health goes. We don't need to restart the what we think conversation, but the question around Paul Goldschmidt and his future as a St. Louis Cardinal is huge, and it's becoming to make more and more sense that they won't re-up on him, but I guess we'll find out. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. I think kind of regardless if you're going to keep him or not, I think right now he probably does. We are already starting to see it, but there's some at bats I'd rather see other people get right now just to see how that goes.
I'm gonna call a shot right now, Nate.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that at some point, once the season is over, we see a Katie Wu article saying that Nolan Arenado begged the front office to bring Goldie back for one more year, for leadership. Friendship, first basing,
sure,
doinking dongs,
right?
But I'm calling my shot right now. We're gonna see that article this winter.
Okay, would not surprise me. We've already gotten the sort of warning shots of a Paul Goldschmidt reunion.
Yeah.
Which I also still kind of want. I don't know. I'm so torn on it.
It's do we turn the page or do we try one more time? That's really the decision you need to make. I think I would not be surprised at all if Paul Goldschmidt goes to the Yankees and has a really solid year, hitting in between Juan Soto and Aaron Judge or whatever the hell they decide to do. But it's Do you want to try to run it back?
Juan Soto $600 million.
I think he is going to be a Yankee until we all die.
Yeah. Damn.
Him and Judge doinking dongs forever into heaven. But I think, yeah, like I said, it's just what's your methodology? Do you want to turn the page? Do you want to open up those ABs, or do you want to bet on Goldie? And honestly, right now, I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer. You just got to pick the poison that you would rather go with.
No, I like somewhere in the middle. How about they say something like, we want Paul Goldschmidt back, but then they just keep him on the bench the whole time? Or, I'm starting to get comfortable with them saying one thing and then doing the opposite.
Let's give him $20 million to the player option and just let him decide.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Let's put him at second.
He could do it.
I bet he could do it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Cardinal, you want to talk about?
Jose Fermin had a nice little hit the other night, last night on Tuesday night. Maybe be fun to see what they have in him. He's kind of been languishing down there and crushing AAA. I hope that the Cardinals drop Matt Carpenter and just have him be a cheerleader on the bench for the remainder of the season and give those at-bats or that roster spot to someone else. And I guess just to that point, I think that it once the season is dead and we're doing our moratorium on everything, we can probably talk about this more. But I don't think it can be underrated how bad the Cardinals bench was all year and how that is largely due to Matt Carpenter and Brandon Crawford taking up those spots and being completely worthless all year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's all. I'll leave it there.
So my one hope for the next month is that Jordan Walker comes up and plays every day. Like, what do we lose at this point? Just play him every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right. So we're going to talk about the upcoming series and some other league news. But before we do, we want to remind everybody that this joyful show is brought to you every week by listeners just like you.
Wow.
And supported on Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you enjoy the show, want to support its continued existence, even in these bleak times, it's always darkest before dawn, Hambo. And this show, I can't wait. When we have a good season again, the show will probably.
You just wait, people. You're not even going to know
you
what
don't even know. You don't know. But anyway, if you want to support the show, its continued existence, and the time and effort we put into it, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Patrons of any level get access to our private Discord server. It's the Bird Scored, tweet, baby. We're having a good time in there. Good place to get away from the bleak social media existence. Won't pretend and say that it's a bastion of positivity in there, otherwise, but it's still a great place to go and talk to other Cardinal fans and actually talk to people and share stuff and know that you're going to get a reaction and it's not just going off into the void. So a bunch of really cool people in the Bird Scored. If you can't join that, we do ask that you just take a few minutes and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really, really helps. Hambo, and where else can people find us online?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. We're on Instagram at Talking About Birds. Our faces are available to look at on TikTok. You can listen to the show on Spotify or on YouTube. If you're like that, just go there and do it. Click it, like it, subscribe it, star us, give us 5 stars on Spotify. You can do all that on Spotify just on Spotify. You can email us questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, ramblings, threats to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And as always, you can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
848-48-BIRDS. All right. Well, the onslaught continues, Hambone. The Cardinals have one of the toughest schedules. And, it ain't getting any easier right now. They are going to New York to play 3 games against the Yankees. Aaron Judge, the best hitter in baseball, is on pace for 63 home runs. He might do it again, folks. And Juan Soto is crushing right alongside him. Are you excited for our fly ball pitchers to go to?
I actually am. I think this is going to be really exciting. It's going to be fun to watch. Don't forget that Giancarlo Stanton is back and healthy and has been kind of whacking the ball around. And
do we have a
Jazz
pitching
Chisholm.
projection? Is Michaelis going to pitch in New York Yankees Stadium?
I'll take a look while I'm
Because-
blabbering on about this. But Jazz Chisholm is back playing third base for them, which is also fun. Looks like the pitching matchup is going to be Fetty, Gibson, and, well, this is interesting. It's Miles' turn in the rotation, but the projected starter is showing that they're going to skip him. So I wonder if they're projecting a bullpen start or something. But it has
Might
Miles.
just be trying to save Michaelis from. I mean, that would just there'll be every at bat will end up in a home run.
Yeah. Yeah. So it might be a bullpen start. Maybe it's going to be a Libby start. Maybe it's going to be somebody else start. But yeah, currently has his start pushed out to Monday against the Brewers. So I guess we'll watch that with great interest. But yeah, I think that's. I think that this series is going to be really good for Aaron Judge's chase to break his own record. And I mean, I just like playing the Yankees. They're the most famous team. Aaron Judge is the most famous player. He is as fun to watch as any player in our lifetime. So I look forward to that. And, Soto, we don't get to see him much anymore since he's in the AL or has been this year. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really bad series. I think Kyle Gibson matches up really, really poorly against the Yankees.
I know I've been laughing about Michaelis, but Gibson is the same thing. So
at least Gibson has some reps in the AL East,
True.
so maybe he's got some tricks up his sleeve against Judge and Stanton. We'll see, but yeah, it's going to be a really rough start. The Cardinals are drawing. We got Will Warren, Marcus Stroman, and Nestor Cortez. So that part, maybe the Cardinals can bang a little bit.
That's like the one thing the Yankees don't have that great. I mean, they have Garrett Cole, but we're not playing him. So
we're missing Cole, yeah. So yeah, it'll be fun. Like I said, watching a great team, or not a great team, a very good team, is just inherently fun. And watching Judge, who is,
I do have
his second half numbers are like he's besting Bonds at Bonds' best. Like he is doing wild things right now.
And I do share some of your like I have there's two parts of me whenever we play the Yankees, and one of them is like, fuck the Yankees.
Yeah.
Because of course. And then the other part of me is like, well, this is what a classic matchup. The Cardinals versus the Yankees, like two of the most storied, and I just get really into that sort of thing too.
Yeah. In the second half, Aaron Judge, his batting average is 407.
Is that good?
And he has 17 home runs in 35 games.
Is that good? I don't.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It is crazy that his average is so high for everything else about his game. Like he is just on another level right now.
Yeah. I think he just hits the ball so hard that it either goes over the wall or like punches holes through players' chests. What's his BABIP right now? What's he? Because
BABIP is 371.
So that's high, but that's not that crazy high for a guy with that exit velocity. Yeah. When you have a higher EV, you can sustain a higher BABIP too. He's not even getting that lucky.
Man. Yeah, he's good. Well, yeah. So, anyways, 3 games in the Bronx. It's going to be rough.
Yep. And then the Cardinals go to Milwaukee. At one point, this felt like a crucial series. Kind of doesn't anymore. They just won 2 of 3 against the Brewers, which was fun. But they go to Milwaukee for 3 more. I believe these are the last 3 games against the Brewers of the regular season.
I believe you're right. Yes.
Yeah. So one last chance to make a little dent. I guess you sweep them. Maybe you feel, but still, it's,
Yeah, I mean, if the Cardinals sweep the Yankees and the Brewers, I'm still not going to feel it. If they just
I
run
know.
the table until you and I talk, I'm still not going to be feeling it. The Cardinals are currently 10.5 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are playing quite well.
Yeah.
They've somehow started playing better with Christian Yelich going down.
Well, I've talked about this before, but Churio, he's seemingly fully ascended. He's been hitting like 350 for 2 months now. He seems like one of the next guys, you know?
Yeah, Churio's been fantastic. William Contreras has been fantastic. Willie Adames is like one of the most underrated shortstops in the game. He's just so consistently really good and has been good. And Freddie Peralta is an ace. Their pitching has been just good enough. But the team is, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Their parts equal a pretty solid baseball team. I think I have to get off my train of saying this team is going to flop. I still don't think they're going to push that hard into the playoffs because just like the Phillies and Dodgers and Padres, I just think there are better teams out there. But they're the best team in the Central, and you know what? The Cubs might be the second best, and the Cardinals maybe are the third.
Maybe.
Somewhere
The Reds might be better.
I mean, I would rather, like, if I had to buy stock in a team, I would buy Red stock over Cardinal stock. For sure.
Nobody has Ellie.
Or Hunter Green, or Matt McClain, or Nolvi Marte, or Spencer
I think the
Steer.
Cardinals need John McClane.
That's a movie.
Now that's a movie.
All right. So
it stinks.
Is that a Jay Sherman reference on this show, Nathan? On this show?
That's exactly in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. All right. So anyways, good luck, boys. But 2 road series in a row, New York and Milwaukee.
Yep. All right. Let's round out with a little bit of league news. Hambone, with this first one, let me just preempt. This is what success looks like at the major league level. And it's just so good to see success rewarded. I wish the Cardinals could follow suit a little bit. Now you may go on.
I was going to preempt this with for every mediocre person out there, it's good to know that you can still succeed. Perry Manassian and the Angels agreed to a 2-year extension.
Well deserved.
They like what he's doing. He completely sold out last year to try to get Ohtani to stay. That set their team back years. But you know what? He's had some decent drafts. Noah Shanuel, and Zach Neto are might be guys, and there's some.
They
some
also
people.
Christian Moore, who was their pick this year. They might do a Neto. They might call him up this year. He's crushing already in the minors.
So there's not everything has been bad, and I think Perry Manassian has the second or third worst owner in baseball as his boss. So I think all things considered, it's okay. But it is funny that this happened. The funniest thing is that this news came out the same day that Scott Service got fired from the Mariners, which made no sense to me either. But let's go mediocrity. We love it, folks. Danny Jansen makes MLB history by playing for both teams in the same game as the Red Sox and Blue Jays resumed their game earlier this week. My favorite part about this, and I don't think I realized this until I flipped the game on, is that the game actually ended with Danny Jansen was at bat. So Danny Jansen was at bat. Rain delay happens. A couple of months expire. Danny Jansen gets traded to the Red Sox. He is now catching for the opposing team for the at bat that he started.
Yeah.
And Dalton Varsho was pinch hitting for Danny Jansen, who is catching that at bat. First time that's ever happened in baseball. This is one of the reasons why I love baseball.
I know,
because shit like this is even possible of happening.
Yeah.
But just kind of awesome.
I love it. Same. I love this shit. Out of how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of baseball games in 130, 140 years of baseball. Yeah. And you would have thought there would be some wacky 18 Dickety 7 where Ting Tong, Scissors Magoo was traded, mid game and he crossed the dugout and, and it's it was nothing. Somehow in 2024 we get this wonderful little thing.
I can't remember which position did Sisters Magoo play.
Well, he was pitching, you remember, and then he got traded, and he went over and he took an at bat. Yeah.
All right, last piece of news: Amazon nixes the $115 million investment with Diamond Sports that has been pulled off the table. I thought that was a slam dunk.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense for Amazon to just start scooping shit like that up. They're not doing that anymore. So big old question mark. We'll see what happens there, but it looks like Diamond is just going to be left to die. And we'll likely see, my prediction is that MLB will just take over. But,
I think this is a good thing, big picture. I don't want Amazon anywhere near the broadcast rights for the for baseball or for anything. It obviously adds some more turmoil in the moment, but I'm of the same mind that this needs to ultimately end up in baseball controlling its own broadcast rights and putting out its own product. And so anything that gets in the way of that, I think, is a bad thing. And so I'm glad to see this fall through, even if it makes it a little murkier for the short term.
Agreed. That's all I got for league news this week, Nady.
All right. We're going to end with a classic game, Hambone. Been a couple months since we've played it. One of the good ones, we call it, Who Is This Guy? All right. So, if you're new to the show, I have a series of facts from my boy Hambone. They're going to start incredibly vague and get increasingly specific. They are facts about a Major League Baseball player who has at some point played Major League Baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals.
All right.
He has to guess after each fact.
Yeah, I know.
It's for the listeners.
It's for the listeners.
It's for the listeners. All right. This player was born August 23rd, 1988.
88, okay.
Just had a birthday in Jupiter, Florida. How fun is that?
Jupiter, Florida. That is fun. 1988. It's about my age. Jupiter, Florida. We love it, folks.
Uh-huh.
Miles Michaelis?
Damn it, yes.
Yes.
Every once in a while you get it off of this first one, and it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Was that just a guess because of his age?
No. I know that one of the reasons he signed with the Cardinals is because their spring training is so close to his hometown, and that man loves to fish.
So I knew the Jupiter thing was, I was like, if I get past this one, I think he'll be stumped for a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, let's try your other clues. I'll rate them for you.
In no particular order, he played for St. Louis, the Rangers, and the Padres.
Yeah, I think I would have gotten that one just because I have looked at Miles Michaelis' baseball reference page so many times.
See, I always forget who he played for before he left the United States.
That's back in his lizard-eating days.
Yeah. In 2018, he led the league in walks per 9 and came in 6th in the NL Cy Young.
That's crazy. I didn't know that he got Cy Young votes that year.
He came in 6th.
That might have thrown me off.
Yeah. Led the league in walks per 9, like in the positive way. Obviously.
Yeah.
In 2023, he led the NL in games started and earned runs.
Wow.
Yeah. And then final one, some call him the Lizard King.
Okay. Gotcha, Miles.
Yeah. All right. Well, sometimes that game is a whole dramatic thing, and sometimes you get it in one. So, All right. Well, that's it then.
Sorry.
Yeah. No.
You got another one ready?
No.
All right.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Times are tough, but I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to try to enjoy baseball. And
if you're a massive nerd like us, if you're a total freak, this is I mean, winning is more fun, but this is exciting. You get to, this is in-game shit. We get to see what's going on, what's percolating, what the Cardinals are thinking, what the young guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, last year, this time, we were seeing Mason Wynn come up and set the groundwork for what's happened this year. Who's doing that this year? Is Alec Burleson going to end the season strong and really establish himself? There's still some question marks there. What about...
Does Ali Marmol make it through the rest of the season?
Yeah. Do we see any of these Sajasi, McGreevy, Hintz, Quinn Matthews? Some organizations do that. They'll take a guy like Quinn all the way up to the major leagues. Yeah.
I will say, I know the show's over. Maybe we can talk about this more next week. If we do get rid of Ali Marmol, I would really like the Cardinals to bring in like a Buck Showalter.
Sure.
Some guy that's been managing baseball teams before I was born, because since Matheny, we have had all managers with zero major league experience. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but I would just like a change.
Maybe time to try something new. Yeah.
Yes. Maybe time to try something new. Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't think it'd be hard. It's still the Cardinals. Still think you'd get, there'd be plenty of managers. Sure. What's Ron Washington doing? He's got a couple more years in him, right?
He's managing the Angels right now.
I know. He's going to manage for the next 50 years also.
Get Dusty Baker out of retirement. It's just something.
Somebody
my nightmare, who's done it before.
Can I tell you my nightmare, Ben?
Yeah.
Please don't hire Joe Madden.
Oh. That won't happen.
I don't think it'll happen either.
I don't think that'll happen.
But Chaim Bloom, Joe Madden.
Oh, no. Oh, can I say my nightmare scenario? I know the episode is done, but I didn't get to share my nightmare scenario that I had with Chaim Bloom.
Oh, sure.
I think I referenced this earlier in the show. If I didn't, it was in my brain. I referenced it in my little internal monologue.
Sure.
So I was thinking about this, and I think I woke up to this thought. It struck me. But the idea of if Chaim Bloom takes over and the DeWitts are saying to him, they're instructing him to do a raise and slash the payroll in half and do more with less and to be a raise type team. What if that is part of the 4D chess that's being played with Chaim Bloom being brought in, and they're going to tell them to basically copy and paste what the Rays are doing and bring that to St. Louis?
Yeah. Well, the way I want to give the DeWitts more credit still, because they've been a top 10 payroll team in baseball, on and off over the last decade. So I don't want to say, I was about to say that that's how the DeWitts have operated in the past, but I do want to be fair to them. They've been top 10. But the way it seems like things have been heading, that doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility.
All they do is complain about money.
Yeah.
So,
well, on that note,
sorry,
I sure hope
share
not.
That.
Yeah, I sure hope not. All right, well, that'll do it for this week. Check out the Patreon, and until next week, go Cardinals.
Yeah.
Get a good draft pick. All right, here we go.
Bitch, I'm a cow.